I've labored long for bread, for honor, and for riches, and for too long on my corns you've tread, you fair-haired sons of bitches. Today we're talking about the Poet Bandit, Black Bart, and the sort of hijinks that he got up to in Northern California. Hope you'll enjoy it. So in this episode, we are talking about Black Bart, the Poet Bandit. There's only one place in this episode where we're going to be where a robbery or anything connected to the story is confirmed as happening. The rest of this will be filmed mostly at Columbia State Historic Park, the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas, and very likely a place that our main character had frequented before. But none of the other incidents that I'm describing will actually be taking place at where I'm standing, except for one, and we'll get to that in a minute. But who was Black Bart? So Black Bart was born Charles Boles, and this one has so much more myth-making and unconfirmed stories than anything else really that I've come across so far. So I'll try and tell you what I know of the facts, and then I'll try and tell you what I know of the legends, and then let you kind of decide, go on your own, choose your own Black Bart adventure story. Charles Boles, born in Norfolk, I believe in the south of England in 1829, about 2 or 3 years, the family moves to Jefferson County, New York. And they are farming there, and then they hear about, I forget how many are in the family. I think it's 7 sons or 7 children. 1849, they hear about gold in California. And so Charles and his brothers make the trek out to California. They are out in the Sacramento Valley. They're at Placerville and Sutter's Mill and all these places, and just working hard to get the yella, and not much is coming up. It's a lot of work for not that much benefit. I think one of the letters back home, he said that he worked all day and he got $1.25 in gold, and that is about maybe a little over $200 today. Things are always changing, so at the time of this recording, in 2026, I believe that would be close to $200. And he said that's not much, but this is the first gold that I've seen in weeks of working. So in the cold snow melt, just shivering in the river while your body overheats in the summer, bent over a pan, looking for these little specks of gold, and then finding what you think is gold, and then it's pyrite, fool's gold. So they did that for a couple of years, and then in 52, the brothers go back to New York, and it's only a few months, I believe, and Charles says, I want to get back out there. There's always this sense of adventure, that he wants more than the farming life. And so being an unsuccessful gold miner was more rewarding than being a successful farmer for him. And so he goes out, comes back to California. He's here, I think, another 2 years. Not very successful, getting by. And he's learning the land, which is going to be very important in his next turn, or not immediately next turn, but later in his life. Getting the layout, how all the towns are connected, what all the trails are, how to survive out in the elements here in California year round through all the seasons. So it's 1854. He goes back to the family in New York and then makes his way to Illinois. He has some brothers who have some farmland in Illinois. He gets married to a woman named Mary, and they start having children. They start making a family. And then the Civil War breaks out. And of course, everyone thought at the beginning of the Civil War it'll be over by Christmas. Well, Christmas comes and the war's not over, and Charles decides, I would rather be a Union soldier getting all sorts of diseases in the swampy South than be a farmer in Illinois. And so he volunteers for one of the companies organized out of Illinois, and that company saw a lot of action. So I think December of 1862, he is in the Mississippi campaign. He is under William Tecumseh Sherman and U.S. Grant. I think Chickasaw Marsh. He gets he's not wounded yet, but he's fighting in Chickasaw Marsh, and then in the campaign to take Vicksburg in May of 1863. I believe, May of 1863, he gets wounded there in trying to take Vicksburg. That musket ball went through so much to get to him, like all of his equipment and his belt and his clothes, and then got to him, but didn't get infected, and he was able to be patched up and continue fighting. He is in the taking of Chattanooga, and then in the March to the Sea. Burns Atlanta, and then he is in the Grand Parade of the Grand Army of the Republic at the end of the war in 1965. He goes back home to Illinois with his wife and children, and just does eventually they move across the border into Iowa, and then they come back to Illinois in the late 1860s, and he needs something better than being a farmer. He just standing there and making corn grow was not the life for Mr. Boles. So he says that there's, again, it's like a kaleidoscope of all the different ways all the different accounts of the story. One of them is he got in a fight with Mary and left. And the other is they had an agreement that he would do this, but he goes to Montana, and he's involved in mining again. So he has some land out there, and he's mining, and we'll get to what happens next in just a moment. So Charles Boles leaves his wife and family behind in Illinois to go out to Montana and explore his possibility of making it rich in gold once again, or trying. He's trying again. He never made it rich in gold, at least not gold coming from the ground. So he's out in Montana, and it's a kaleidoscope of different accounts, but a lot of people, or let's just say some scholars say, that Boles is out there. He's got his land. He has paid like $200 for this cradle rocking machine to sift through the gold, and there's some people from Wells Fargo who come and say they want to buy his land. Well, he's not ready to give up just yet, and he says, no, I don't want you to buy my land. So then they come back and they buy the land north of him, and they dam the water so that he can't get any water. He can't process the sand. He can't find out if he's got gold in there. So he's ruined. He's now spent however much money for the land and for the device. And he's been writing to his wife constantly throughout all of this. And he leaves one last letter that says, "I vow revenge on the Wells Fargo company." And she doesn't hear from him again for years. Charles Boles would end up going back west, back to the place that he spent his youth, back to California. And what he does then is what we'll be talking about in just a moment, and what will make him one of the most infamous highwaymen, bandits of the Wild West. So, Charles Boles has had it with the Wells Fargo company, and he writes his wife saying that he's going to seek revenge, and that is the last word that she gets for a while. He then comes back to California, and sometime, maybe 1873. Again, there's so many different versions of this, but the one, I'll just tell you the one that makes the most sense to me. And that doesn't mean that history always makes sense. So I don't know what to say, but this is my channel, and this is the way you're getting the story. He's here for like 2 years, back in California, doing research. It's not just a crime of passion. There is a lot of forethought in how is he going to get back at Wells Fargo? How do you become a successful coach robber? What routes do you take? What are the stagecoach routes? When are they leaving? Some people say that he pretends to be a mining owner. He's always this very well-spoken, well-mannered gentleman, even in his criminal activities. Everyone talks about how well-spoken and well-bred and well-read he is. So people believe him, that he is this mining magnate, and that he is talking with these stagecoach drivers about how he can transport his material. What kind of boxes do you have for my material? How safe are they? How would one make sure that, how are they secured? All these questions that both a robber or a mining magnate would ask. And he does that throughout 1873, 1874, and then by the summer of 75, he's kind of got it all together on how he's going to do it. So his first robbery happens in Calaveras County off of Funk Hill, and he awaits kind of in the trees and the trail, along the trail. He's got a little knapsack where he's got supplies. He's got some bread and crackers and sugar and food, and he's there for hours. And then I believe that this takes place like 2, 3 in the morning. He disguises himself with a flour sack over his face. He puts a bowler hat on. He has a very long linen duster down to his ankles, and he's got a shotgun. Some reports say that he actually had 2 guns with him. He steps out in the trail, and he tells the stagecoach driver, this is a holdup. Throw down the box, throw it down in the express box. And the driver starts to go for the box, but it looks like maybe he's going for his weapon, or maybe he actually was going for a weapon. And Boles points over to the trees, and he says, and in the trees, it looks like there's rifles pointed at the coach. And so Boles just says over his shoulder, "Hey boys, if he makes a move for his weapon, let him have it." And the driver's like, "Oh, I see that there's other guns pointed right at me. I'll throw the box down." And so he did. All the passengers in the coach are so scared that one of the ladies throws out her purse out the window. And Boles picks up the purse with the barrel of his gun and puts it back into her lap and takes it out and says, "No, ma'am, this isn't about your money. This is about the company money." And so then he keeps on with the robbery. The coach keeps on going down the hill. Boles gets his hatchet. He opens up the box. He gets his loot, and then he's off. And there's another coach that comes, and the coach is not owned by Wells Fargo. So Boles doesn't know this at first because I believe it's pitch dark. He holds it up, and the man says, we're a private coach. We're not owned by Wells Fargo. And he says, "Well, then you can go on your way." And he does. So the second coach goes down Funk Hill, meets up with the first coach, and they both stop, and the drivers are talking to each other, and they say, "I think let's go back and get our money." And they go back up the hill, and they find the empty box, no sign of Boles, but in the trees, the rifles are still there. Is that his gang? His gang is still there with rifles pointed at the empty street. That they go and they search through the trees, and they find there were no guns. It was sticks. It was branches, possibly painted with shoe polish. In the Civil War, they might call them Quaker rifles, to make you think that there were rifles and that he had a whole gang with them, but he didn't. He was all on his own. That's the first robbery. That's the robbery. That's what made him the career. That's what inaugurated this amazing stage robbing career for the man that would become known as Black Bart. I'm here in Duncans Mills, California, and it was here along probably this very stretch of road that Black Bart made the transition from just a regular stagecoach robber to being one of the most famous stage robbers of the Old West, because this was the first stage robbery that he did where he left a note behind and showed his literary skills. So it was August of 1873. Actually, let me check the poem itself. August 3rd, 1877. After holding up one of the stagecoaches coming through, he opened the safe box, he grabbed all of its contents, and then he left behind on a rock near the trail a note. And on the note it said, "I've labored long for bread, for honor, and for riches, but on my corns too long you've tread, you fair-haired sons of bitches." And he signed it P.O. and the number 8, Poet. So that was left here on the side of the road, and then a few months later, he followed it up with another poem. So at a robbery that occurred July 25th of 1878, going between Quincy and Oroville, he held up the coach, opened the box, took out all of its contents, and once again left a note behind for the investigators. "Here I lay me down to sleep, to wait the coming morrow, perhaps success, perhaps defeat, and everlasting sorrow. Let come what will, I'll try it on, my connection can't be worse. And if there's money in that box, 'tis money in my purse." This time he signed it Black Bart. These two poems made him a Wild West legend. For years onward, although he didn't really leave too many more poems behind, he would be known as Black Bart the Poet Robber. And all of that started right here in Duncans Mills in 1877. Well, now, not only is he this polite, gentlemanly figure, well-spoken, and someone who's not looking to harm the common man, but solely a vendetta against the company, he's also a poet. He's also the Poet Bandit. So Black Bart's notoriety then continues to grow, and newspapers put out word of his reward. I think it's over $800, at least at the beginning it is. And Wells Fargo gets a private detective, Detective John Hume, to go on the trail. And so what they figure out is, the criminal profile of Black Bart is he is someone who is very polite, who is well-spoken. His MO at this point is really just to rob once a year, maybe more, maybe once or twice at this point. That's gonna amp up. So he's also going to start getting less and less reward from each robbery. At one point, somewhere up in Northern California, Black Bart robs a coach, and some of the coachmen know him, like not know him personally, but, oh, this is Black Bart the robber. He's polite. He's not going to hurt me. So one of these robbers is robbed the first time, and Black Bart is looking in the box, and there's like $30 in there. And the guy's chatting him up. He's like, so what's your life like? And, is this... how'd you get into this line of work? And, is this all worth it? And when Black Bart opens the box and finds only $30 in it, he just said, well, it really wasn't worth it today. And he takes the $30 and he's on his way. Bart is also really good at the escaping. So some people say that he had a fear of horses. I'm not so sure if that bears out, but that's just one of the theories, is that he has a fear of horses, so he never rode a horse when he held up the coach. Another theory is it was actually faster to get away on foot. You could disappear into the woods faster. Also, people weren't very good at figuring out what people looked like, giving an accurate description of the robber, especially if they covered their face. But people were very good at describing the horse that they were on. And it's not like a car where a red Toyota Camry is going to look the same. A horse is a unique animal. So whatever distinguishing features, it had a spot over its right ear or whatever, that's going to point you to the person. So if you're not on a horse, that's one less identifying factor. On top of that, because of all of his time, first as a miner, just living out in the elements in California, and then also from his time in the army as a scrounging and foraging for food, he was able to live out in the wilderness for weeks at a time on foot. Sometimes he would even bind up his feet with a cloth to hide his tracks. He didn't do that every time, though, and he does eventually get caught because they tracked him. But he's again, this is not just, oh, I'm angry, I'm going to go right at Wells Fargo with everything I've got. It was deliberate. It was planned out. He knew when each route was. He knew when the routes were less likely to have people on them. He didn't want even to have other witnesses. This was between him and Wells Fargo, no one else. There was another robbery where a woman got scared and she exited the coach to give her purse to Black Bart. And Bart took the purse at first, gave her his arm, escorted her back in to the coach, and then put the purse on her lap and closed the door. Again, ma'am, this is not about you. This is about Wells Fargo. Everything that you've heard about these kind of vigilante heroes of the 1800s, the outlaws, even going into the Great Depression, like Bonnie and Clyde, where sometimes they would rob a bank and they would not rob the people, and they'd say, this is about the bank, this isn't about you. But Bonnie and Clyde killed all kinds of civilians. They sprayed bullets indiscriminately. Black Bart didn't. He was actually a friend of the people, where so many just pretended to be. So this is the reputation that he has. There was this other robbery that occurred, and the stage driver loses his straw hat. This is just a couple of months after Boles had been shot at. Black Bart, Charles Boles. I'm using Black Bart most of the time, but sometimes they're both the same person. So Black Bart had lost his hat in a previous robbery because one of the shotgun men actually used his shotgun and fired at Boles, knocked his hat off, and actually got some shrapnel in his head, but not enough to blow it off. So this had just happened to him a few months ago. Now this other driver has lost his straw hat. And so Black Bart picks up the hat and gives it to him and says, you may want to keep this because you may need it to protect you from a shotgun blast someday. Black Bart saying that because it had just happened to him. He also, sometimes people doubt if his weapon was even loaded. He was so averse to violence that he had been a soldier. He had seen so much destruction and death and misery that he seems like the person who does not want to inflict that. It's not about pain. It's not about physical pain and hurting people. It's about him and Wells Fargo and that they can afford to lose this money because of what they did to him. One of the times he's being attacked, and rather than chambering the shotgun and firing it at him, he just runs away. He just, with the shotgun, turns around, goes into the trees. So many interests. One more story. He's robbing a coach, and he sees the rifle that the driver has that he's not using on Black Bart. And Black Bart, while he's going through his earnings in the safety box, he pulls out a $50 bill and hands it to the guy and says, I'd like your rifle. And the guy gives him his rifle. Just an amazing figure. And he just kept doing this. They're starting to get a little more frequent because a lot of times the earnings are getting lower and lower. I think that same guy that I talked about earlier, where he's chatting it up and he only had $30 in his box, the next time he robs the same driver and they're having a conversation as he's rummaging through the box and says, was it worth it this time? It was only $8. So because they're starting to ramp up in frequency, it makes it more likely that he's going to get caught. And how he actually does get caught, we'll talk about in just a moment. One of the many exciting or appealing things about this story of Black Bart is that it kind of has a full circle ending. There's so much, you know, the way that he conducted himself, that he was the gentleman bandit, that he was really only after the company money, that he was polite, that he left these poems behind, and then on to the cherry on top of all of it is that it has a full circle ending. His last robbery is back at Funk Hill, back where the first robbery took place. So I believe it's 1883. And he is waiting for the coach. The coachman doesn't have any passengers, but he picks up one of the local kids. He's about 18, 19 years old, Jimmy Rollery. And Rollery is friends with the tavern, or not, excuse me, he's the son of the tavern owner, where the stagecoach stop is. And so Rollery asks to hitch a ride with the coach to go down to the bottom of Funk Hill and hunt for some supper. And the coachman obliges. And so Rollery is let out at the bottom of the hill. The coach then continues on the way to the top of the hill, and Black Bart steps out with his shotgun, flour sack over his face, says, throw down the box. And the coach driver says, I can't throw down the box. It's bolted. So this is certainly not Black Bart's first rodeo. This is his 29th. So he says, fine, unhitch the horses, put a chalk underneath the back wheel, and take the horses down to the bottom of the hill on the other side. And so the coachman does that, unhitches the horses, takes them down. Then Black Bart climbs into the top of the stagecoach, and he starts hacking at the express box with a hatchet. And it's taking forever. It's just not opening. And it takes about half an hour. And during that time, Rollery, who is down at the other end of the hill, starts looking. He's trying to figure out where his friend went. And he gets up a ways on the hill, and he sees his friend, the coach driver, with the horses, and starts asking what happened. He says, we're being robbed. I don't have a weapon. Your hunting rifle, let's use that. And so they muster up their courage, and they go back up, and Black Bart is still there hacking at it, and he finally gets it open, and he gets the gold and some receipts and some mail sacks, and he's climbing down, and the stage driver says, Jimmy, give me your gun. And so he gets the gun, and he fires a couple of shots, and they miss. And Jimmy says, give me the gun. I'll hit him, and I won't kill him either. And so Jimmy gives off one shot, and he hits Black Bart in his hand. So he drops some of the gold and the things that he's carrying, and he's now wounded. He's bleeding. So there's now a trail of blood. So Black Bart makes his way through the trees and eventually finds his way to Sacramento. But the detective is on his trail, and this is what's going to lead to the actual capture of Black Bart, is that trail of blood and a leftover handkerchief. And the detective will use that information to finally put a bow on the career of the Poet Bandit. So Charles Boles, Black Bart, he makes his robbery at the Funk Hill. He gets shot by Jimmy Rollery in the hand. There's some blood that gets onto the handkerchief. The handkerchief is left at the scene. Detective Hume is on the case. The handkerchief has a marking on it for a laundry. He doesn't know exactly where that laundry is, but he starts with San Francisco, just hitting every laundry down the list, and he finds it. And look, I'm definitely a person who believes that if you do the crime, you got to do the time. But on the other hand, who was Black Bart really hurting? The Wells Fargo company? They could miss a couple $100 here and there. There are so many people who become heroes of the people, but they were truly bad guys who murdered innocents indiscriminately and just had a good PR team behind them. Black Bart actually didn't hurt anybody, never physically assaulted a single person, never killed anyone. No blood was shed except his own. That being said, I kind of think that the laundry guy is a total narc. Detective Hume goes to the laundry guy. The laundry guy's like, yeah, of course, I know whose handkerchief this is. It's Charles Bolton, the mining magnate. And Detective Hume goes, well, isn't that interesting? I am a fellow mining magnate. I would like to meet him. No one's asking where he got this handkerchief. No one's putting any of this together. And the narc is just like, oh, well, you should go to the tobacco shop tomorrow and meet your fellow mining magnate. Because, of course, it makes sense that mining magnates would meet through the laundromat. Whatever. This happened over 150 years ago. I'm not going to get that mad about it. So Detective Hume sets up a meeting between one of his associates and Charles Bolton, who is Black Bart. They start talking things over. He shows up with the wound on his hand. They say, why don't we take this to my other office? That other office is the office of Detective Hume. Hume is there. They ask him questions about the robbery. The jig is up. Charles Bolton is sentenced to 8 years. So they only charge him with the first robbery. The last robbery. And so he's sentenced to 8 years at San Quentin. And he picks up with his wife. Hey, honey, remember me? It's been about 13 years. Let me tell you what's been going on. So I've become one of the West's most renowned criminals. I miss you and the kids so much. When I get out, I'm going to be sure to find you and we'll be a happy family once more. Look, this guy's pretty cool, but it's definitely a slight against him that he just abandoned his family, and then he goes off, he gets let out of prison, and he again doesn't pick up with his family again. He gets let off 6 years out of an 8-year sentence for good behavior, for being the polite gentleman that he is. This guy was a guy who never drank, never smoked, never used cuss words. There are other people who copy him. They're copycat robbers, but they're instantly known as copycats because of how much they swear when they're in the middle of a robbery. Everyone goes, Black Bart wouldn't say those words. Black Bart, he wouldn't use a word that his mama wouldn't want him to use. He's just the ultimate gentleman. He then gets out, and the reporters ask him if he's going to commit crimes again. And Charles Bolton says, no, that's behind me. I'm not going to be a robber anymore. I'm not going to commit any more crimes. Then the reporter says, well, are you going to write more poetry? And Charles Bolton says, I already told you, I'm not going to commit any more crimes. He gets out, and then again, it's the kaleidoscope of you get to choose what you think happened to Black Bart. Some say he went back to robbing. Maybe he robbed about 3 more stagecoaches and then disappeared. Some say he went to New Mexico and became a rancher. Others say that he went to China or Japan or Australia. Another story is he became a pharmacist in a town very close to here and lived out the rest of his years and died somewhere near the turn of the century. We don't know. You get to choose so many things on what does Black Bart mean to you. What we know for sure, he was named Charles Boles. He was a gentleman when he was robbing. He only went after the Wells Fargo company. Why he was doing that is up for debate, but the fact that he did it is not. He wrote poems at 2 of his crime scenes. That's kind of the main things. That's the nucleus. Everything else is up to you. And that's where we'll leave it off of the story of Black Bart, the Poet Bandit. Well, that just about wraps up this episode of Chandler's Travels. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. All of that helps us in growing the channel so that I can take even more of you along with me on my journeys. Until next time, vaya con Dios. Now I just need to wait for that next stagecoach. There could be hundreds of dollars in there. Better start working on my verse of what I might leave behind.